You're listening to The Paul Higgins Show, where ambitious tech consultants come to unlock their potential. After 18 years as a global leader, I launched several businesses, culminating in a successful exit. I'm sharing what I learned, plus what's working now from mentoring tech consultants. You will hear leaders within our industry to help you build a business you love that allows you to do what you want. If you are looking for immediate cash flow wins to fuel your growth, go to our free ebook at paulhigginsmentoring.com/roadmap. Imagine you dabble a little bit in AI, both within the platform that you work with, but also in your tech consulting business, but you're really unsure as to how this may play out. Hello, I'm Paul, and welcome to the Paul Higgins Show, episode 592. And in this podcast, I talked to Keith Gutierrez from Modgility, Modgility. And he has a great view on how AI is going to play out in our industry. And you're going to learn lots, but three key things. One is, what are the opportunities and threats of AI to your business? Two is, how will AI agents play out, where you can license them and clients can use your AI agent versus your current IP? And the third is why move to value-based pricing, how that's going to impact your profitability if you don't. Keith is a marketing and sales executive with over 20 years of experience in the industry. He is the co-founder and agency principal of Modgility, leading a team of RevOps and inbound marketing specialists. He's currently focused on implementing innovative AI solutions in-house and for clients. And Modgility is a HubSpot Platinum partner located in Cleveland, Ohio. And Keith also teaches Pipeline Generation Boot Camp for the HubSpot Academy. If you'd like to see Keith and I, in particular Keith, go to our YouTube channel. That's Paul Higgins Mentoring is the YouTube channel. And what I'll do now is hand you over to Keith from Modgility.com.
Hey, Paul, thanks for having me. I appreciate being on the show today.
Yeah, well, look, we've been, in contact for a long time. I've always enjoyed our conversations, and we had a ripping conversation the other day, and I thought, hey, why are we doing this just between you and I? Like, you got some brilliant thoughts on the future of AI and how it's going to impact agencies and tech consultants. So why don't we get you on and talk about it? So very excited about today, but why don't we kick off with, who are your ideal clients and what problems you love to solve for them?
Yeah, certainly. We work with a variety of different clients, but I would say ideally working with clients in the B2B space. We work with a lot of like manufacturing type companies, people in the industrial space. We also work with people in the SaaS space and healthcare tech as well. So kind of varies, but mainly companies that are looking to really improve their businesses kind of through, RevOps, and then also being able to scale and grow with demand gen and inbound marketing. We kind of support services on both sides of that. And then we also have a strong software development backbone to our organization as well. That gives us the ability to get into some more of the advanced application developments and integrations and things like that.
Yeah, fantastic. Which, it seems to be the place where all the work is migrating to, as more and more happens in platform, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And what are some of the common problems that you see across these different areas or industries that you work with?
Yeah, so we primarily focus on the HubSpot software, a lot with the HubSpot CRM, and probably the most common problem that we see there is people have invested in HubSpot and they're just not using HubSpot to its full stability. And so they want to be able to get the most they can out of that investment. Companies will come to us in situations like that, and or it may be that somebody wants to find a way to improve or grow their business. So they're coming to us first, and then in which case we're introducing them to HubSpot and the processes that we provide that go along with that.
Yeah. And as a rough mix, what would be, new greenfield versus already using HubSpot?
Used to be a lot more new greenfield, and now it's more and more people that are already using HubSpot. So I think as HubSpot continues to grow and capture a larger market share audience that's out there, we tend to see more and more people coming to us now that are like, I bought this awesome HubSpot product. Can you help me make it work? That's where we fit in.
And of your lead sources, what's your key lead source?
Definitely still any type of referral through past customers, relationships. All those things are ideally the best situation, especially when it's a CEO or an executive from somebody within one of those organizations that have been referred into us. That's the most ideal situation for us, right? Because there's already a lot of trust and credibility that's established there. Nothing really to prove, just get to work and get the job done. those are the best kind, but certainly we have leads coming through various channels, and our inbound channels still can perform really well on top of that.
Yeah, brilliant. All right. Well, the elephant in the room, which is AI, it's been on every podcast of late, but I know that you've got some very bold predictions of where it could go. But let's start with how did you get into AI to, I suppose, complement or supplement what you're doing with HubSpot?
Well, as a lot of the audience may already know, HubSpot has also dabbled a lot in AI recently. And this past Inbound, which is their kind of big conference that they do every year, they unveiled what they call their HubSpot Breeze Intelligence, which comes with a couple different AI pieces. They have Copilot that goes kind of along with it to kind of help you from a personal assistant standpoint. They have a few agents that are baked into the product itself, one that focuses on like kind of a sales process, one that focuses on more of a customer service, and then they have some that are focused on helping you with content and stuff like that as well. And then they have another component to it that also kind of helps with intelligence and form shortening and stuff like that. So they're already dabbling a lot in that space. So that's an area that quickly realized like, wow, I got to get pretty sharp on my AI game here because this is real. It's here now, and our clients and our prospects are going to be asking questions about using these tools. And obviously, I've kind of seen the wave coming for a year or so now in stocks and things like that as well. So I've been following, NVIDIA and Apple and, Microsoft and all these companies. So it's been out there for a while that all this stuff was coming, just hadn't really impacted me per se yet. And then all of a sudden it just like kind of hit huge wave, and ChatGPT was released, and wasn't like a huge game changer for me at first. I got on it, dabbled with it a little bit. Oh, this is cool. Kind of novelty per se is what I kind of looked at it as, but I really didn't think about how I was going to use that in my day to day. And then just a few short months after that, I'm really looking at this thing going, wow, I need to figure out what I can do with this thing. And so that's kind of where my journey started. And it started with ChatGPT and kind of led me along the way from there. So
Yeah, great. And,
yeah,
and
very
roughly,
interesting.
what was that time period when you first started using it?
You know what? It really interesting is probably maybe about this time last year. Nobody's an expert at this. This is like completely Wild West territory here. A lot of people still are not familiar with it even today. It's the biggest greenfield opportunity that there is, but it's also a threat and an opportunity all packed into one. So it's very interesting. I try to be an optimist with all this stuff. So I'm trying to figure out how can I best leverage this and be a part of the opportunity that's at stake here. And that's the perspective that I've kind of taken with it so far.
Yeah, and we were talking just before we went to air that, if you are just listening to Keith today and thinking, oh, gee, I really haven't done anything, don't be too hard on yourself because it is still changing all the time. Like you go back to YouTube and watch something that's 3 months ago versus today. Some of the principles are exactly the same, but a lot of things have changed and it's moving so fast. And, both Keith and I listen to a lot of podcasts, and Keith will talk about those at the end of the show, what he listens to. But, like it's constantly changing, and people that are meant to be their day job, this is all they do. Even, they constantly talk about how this is still new. So you're not late to the party at all, but you got to be on the bus, right? There's no way around it. And you talk about the opportunities and the threats. Just give us your quick view on what are some of the opportunities and what do you see as the threats?
Yeah, so I think there's a massive opportunity right now for people to really understand these tools, the benefits that they provide, especially in the per se agency world right now, because there's just a lot of companies that they don't have time to go out and figure all this stuff out. And even in a situation like myself, right? AI is growing so fast. There's so many tools. I find about a new tool almost every single day, even today, and I'm actively, looking for that. I still find a new one every single day. There's just that many. So
Yes.
it's really hard to figure out which ones to use, which ones not to use, how they work, get them to work correctly. And oftentimes with AI, you find yourself like starting down, one path and you get, 20% completed of something. And then boom, you see the next shiny red ball and you're off into another path and you're working on another project, which you get about 30% done. And then you go into another one and it just recycles over and over again. So actually being able to focus in, learning some very specific tools, being able to execute on those tools and provide value, I think is a huge opportunity right now. And I think that a lot of companies that are out there, they just don't have the time to figure those out. So they'll be willing to pay for people to either use those tools for them, for at least I think in the near term, they're going to do that. And then I think longer term, they're going to be looking to hire people that can come in and, train, coach, consult their internal teams on how to use these tools and be more effective, on their own. I think that's the opportunity right now, which kind of lends into the threats, which I don't know if you want to dive into that
Yeah,
right now,
go for it.
but the threats of that also from an agency perspective is, a lot of the stuff that companies would gladly pay you for past, they probably won't be as willing to pay you for those things longer term, because it'll just be a lot easier to handle those types of tasks. And probably the easiest example of this right now is with content generation and things like that. And some stuff, it just isn't worth focusing on as much anymore. It used to be all about how do you optimize for search engines and SEO, and not to take anything away from SEO. I think it's still very important, but some of the things that we would do in the past to try to gain attention through SEO just are not going to be worthwhile tactics as we move forward.
Yeah, look, totally agree. And I think, sort of taking that threat into, flip it to an opportunity is, what I'm seeing is that, even for me, when I was mentoring tech consultants, I used to have playbooks, right? And the playbook was like an ideal client playbook, a niche playbook, etc. And it was me sort of getting them to do it through their own thought patterns and, to take a lot of time, right? Now, what I'm transferring that into is here's a custom GPT or here's a Claude project that you go and, it helps coach you to get the information out. I'm still designing it, but I'm not actively working with them. They're sort of working with the AI rather than working with me. The upside of that is that it takes us a lot less time to get to the best outcome. Also, they can do it async, right? So it doesn't have to be one-on-one now. So I think that's the opportunity. But the threat is if I don't move fast enough to create those GDPs, they'll create them themselves or they'll get it off someone else, right? So I think, that's the interesting time we're in. But, when you're creating like the content, for example, is a great example. Are you doing that? Are you providing the prompts or the mechanisms that clients can create it themselves, or is that work just going and they're doing it without you?
Yeah, it's a great question. So today we're still managing the majority of that, but we're using AI to do it. We let our clients know that we're using AI to do it. And so one of the things that we've been able to do is actually build some AI kind of like agents with some no code platforms. So we use tools like Airtable and Make, very common right now in this situation. But through that, we've been able to develop a AI that can go and do what we call a tone of voice capture. So can analyze written text that's already been written by a specific author, go and capture that kind of tone of voice of that writing, and then be able to really train AI on that tone of voice. It could replicate very close to that same tone of voice when we're crafting content for that particular authors. It's been really valuable and nice to have those tools. And what's nice now is, it used to be back in the day, it was like, okay, you start with, your campaign planning, and you'd have a blog post, and you'd have a, maybe a Facebook post or a LinkedIn post, and you'd have an email and all these different things that all kind of tie into a campaign. And you'd have to really focus on writing each one of those one at a time. And now you can literally just like plug those all into, an Airtable and say, here, I want all these things to be created, and press play, and boom, they're all there ready to go. And so you can execute it on much faster now. With that being said, though, we would never suggest just taking that content and publishing it the way that it is, right? We still take that, we send it to the client, say, hey, this is what's here. You got to read through it, you got to edit it, and we do some other review as well that we're using AI for with ChatGPT Canvas. That's pretty interesting as well. But all of those things go into creating content and campaigns now, but we can execute on them way faster than we were just a year ago. But our clients are still relying on us to be able to make sure that all those things are being done properly today. And I think that's going to change, though, as we head into this next year. I think more and more clients are going to be like, hey, I want to be able to do those things myself, which is again, opportunity and threat at the same time. As you mentioned, like, you want to be the one that actually owns the tool that you can send to the client that says, okay, client, here's my tool. You can license it from me, and it'll work for you, and boom, and they're off and on their own. Yeah, those are the things that, as a business leader, I'm also thinking about as well, not just how do I deliver for clients today, but how am I going to create those tools that I can license to my future clients tomorrow? Because the way business is being done today for us is likely not going to stay the same.
Yeah, look, I totally agree. And just in the short term, is your margin increase because it's taking less labor? Like, in other words, are you charging the same and it's just taking you less time? Or are you giving some of the margin back to the client? How's that working in the first instance?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't necessarily been as concerned about that right now. I just want to deliver really great product, and I want to be able to prove that I can do that with AI. So if we're spending a little extra time trying to figure out the best way to create output, that's a lot of what we're doing right now. It's kind of like, oh, this is what the product gave us. So let's go back and see how can we adjust the prompts? How can we make it a little bit better? How can we deliver something that's closer to being ready to publish when we're delivering it to the client? I want my team to be focused on that more so than just how efficient can we be right now? Because I think if we have that mindset, we're just going to go for what it gives us and not really exploring the opportunities and how do we make it the best possible product possible. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm at least that's where my mind's at right now.
Yeah, I think you did right. I think, it's a bit like you talked about Nvidia, etc. It's like, all of these companies invested in AI and they haven't got the ROI back as yet. I think it's the same when you dive into it. It actually takes you longer to do things because you're working it out for the first time, but you know that it's going to pay you back down the track. And I think we're all sort of in that world at the moment. It's like you said, with different tools, we're all testing different tools, and that takes time. And it's, it's a bit, yeah, it's a jumble at the moment. But just to go back to your point around creating your own, I think the typical path, if you're just starting on this journey, reminder, you're listening to Keith Gutierrez episode 592. No, you might just start with a very basic prompt. So that's when ChatGPT or Claude, I personally use Claude for content, ChatGPT for everything else, but you work that out. But if, let's say we're in Claude and, you might just put in a little bit of your voice, etc., and you do a pretty average prompt. My recommendation to you is actually let the AI help you improve the prompt, right? So, and the best thing you can ever do is ask it questions. What questions you got of me to help improve this, right? And that's when you get the real power. Then the next bit is going to like a project where you upload all your content. So you might, like for me, I might take all my LinkedIn posts or my best LinkedIn posts, I'll take all my podcasts, you upload that into, and normally a document is better than a PDF. So you upload that and then you basically start to use that and it learns more and more. So that's sort of phase two. And then, like you said, phase three, you can then make that public. So you can actually, or you can share that with your clients to say, hey, this is the tool that you can use. So that's the sort of the journey, three phases that I've sort of going through. And it sounds like you're the same, Keith. Any other thoughts or builds that you want to talk about based on what I just said?
Completely agree with the process. I'm, very similar experience as far as those steps go with things. And, it's very interesting because the one thing I like about kind of this Airtable experience that we built is once you put all of those prompts in there and you kind of perfect them, it always stays in that Airtable. So it can continuously can just run off of those same prompts. You don't have to worry about going back and, individually going to each GPT and trying to run it individually. And the other nice thing is inside of there, you can just pick and choose which model you want to use, which makes it really interesting to be able to go and test and run queries against different models to see what the output is and how it differs. So a lot of exciting stuff that you can do with those tools in that kind of no code environment. But then, now I'm into actually trying to use code and build agents. Dharmesh Shah, one of the founders of HubSpot at Inbound, he unveiled what is called agent.ai. If you haven't checked that out, I would highly encourage you to go over and take a visit to that as well. But it's literally like it's kind of like the LinkedIn or the eBay of AI agents, right? And the idea is that there's a lot of agents in there right now being built by a lot of different builders like myself and people that have been in there for a long time, but I shouldn't say a long time, a couple months, but
it's a long time in AI's history.
In AI, yeah, right. So there's new agents being populated there every single day, and eventually it's all kind of a credit system right now. But eventually, I think that'll be a place where you actually go and hire agents or teams of agents that people can use within their organizations, which is pretty cool. It's a really cool concept. I'm learning how to actually write code, and I'm not a coder. We have developers on our team, and I've just kind of went into this like, you know what? AI can help me code, I'm actually going to try to build something on my own with the help of AI. I know it takes me way longer, but hey, I've written middleware software, right? I've done some pretty interesting things already that I never thought I could possibly do, all with the assistance of AI. And so that's been really cool as well. And now there's other tools that are out there like Bolt, which is one that I'm just venturing into, where you can literally just give it a prompt and it writes code and apps and stuff like that. And Replit is another one that's very similar to this also. So there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in that code development space that I think average or somewhat average tech people are going to be able to use. Non-programmers are going to be able to use to create code and programs and do integrations and things like that we couldn't do in the past. So that's another huge opportunity bundled with a risk all at the same time, with AI.
I think that's sort of, and parts of what you talked about there was sort of I suppose, the fourth part, which is agents to agents, where, computers talk to computers and, don't need you in the middle. So that's sort of even further advanced. Maybe we'll get you on to talk about that at another point. But I do think, from a tech consultant's point of view, I think, you've got two opportunities. One is your own business. How do I better run my own business? And, I think that's still a lot of opportunity, and that's where you should start. And then you've also got the development and your service side of the business. So there's sort of like two opportunities. This is coming out in February of 25, and I hope to have a mastermind up and running by then, where I'm going to have business tech consultants and agency owners in a mastermind talking about these things, where we can all learn off each other. So that's the way that I'm going to try to contribute to this discussion. But you bring up a really good point, is around, if you think about, you've got the platform, which in your case is HubSpot. You've got the partner that helps bring the platform to the client, right? You and I have had the discussion around, and I've had it with some other partners, that the platform may bring more and more of the AI experience in platform, which means that what you currently do will be less and less as a partner. I'd love to get your views. We've spoken about it, but I'd love to share your views here now on the way that you see that potentially playing out and how that might impact what you do as a HubSpot partner in the future.
Again, I think still a huge opportunity, as you said, right? So nothing to get too overly, worried about as far as that goes. But I do think that platforms, whether it be HubSpot or Salesforce, these are platforms that are out there that are investing a ton in AI, and they're going to continue to invest a ton in AI because it's the opportunity that's at hand here for them. So I completely understand the notion to invest there. So, but I do think that they're uniquely positioned to be able to use AI to somewhat or mostly replace a lot of the work that the typical agency provides to clients today or in the past, and do it much more efficiently and effectively, because as long as those knowledge bases have the right information in them, it's pretty much all knowing around your business and your prospects and all of those different pieces. So it's going to take those into consideration and just be more efficient and effective. So I definitely see that as a potential threat. I guess on the other side of that, though, I think that there's still a lot of opportunity, at least right now today, because that is still not here yet, and I don't think it's going to be here. Probably not for a few more years. I don't know how quickly it'll change, but I'm saying that we're probably 3 to 5 years out at least before we really start to see that type of technology. But that's not a long time thinking about it, in the broad term of things here.
Yeah, correct. And that's where, we'll have Keith's LinkedIn profile where you can follow him, because things are constantly changing, as we said. So, but I think that prediction overall is accurate. I think be interesting to see how they also set up the license fees in the future, whether, how much is going to be in product for the same price now, or whether they're going to have different tiers and charge more for different services. But I think overall, if you look at the value chain, like today, the platforms make a lot more money than we do, right? As a general rule. And I think over time that will be even more so, that they'll take more and more of the work in platform. So you just got to prepare and be ahead of it. And I think the only way to know it is to do what Keith's done, which is to get ahead of the game, right? And to stay on the current trends, and therefore you'll be, you'll have more options when that time comes. I remember back in the days when, Coca-Cola, they said there won't be a mum and pop store at the corner. It'll all be supermarkets. That's not the case, right? It's not all supermarkets that still exist, but where the money is made is where the first mover advantage goes. And the other thing is the accounting industry is a great example here. Like accountants used to make a lot of easy money out of bookkeeping. Right, that's all been replaced by Xero, QuickBooks, etc. It's if you look at that accounting industry, it's similar to what's sort of happening to our industry. I think the automation space that you talked about and the integrations, I think that'll be really important because, HubSpot won't play well with Salesforce per se, and you being the tech consultant can help with that. So, I think you're already doing that, but I think that's where the margin will be made in the future. What's your view on that?
Near future, it's interesting. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they had one of the, I don't think it was the founder of Replit, but it was somebody that was involved with Replit. And he was saying that he's pretty bearish on integrations moving forward. So that's also pretty interesting because, it's going to be a lot easier in the future for people to just say, like, I have this tool and I have this tool. I need you to write some code that, middleware that can connect these two through their APIs. And literally that's all you have to do is tell it what to do, and it'll create a connection. I think that, again, we're probably a little ways out before that's like perfected for a larger type integration. And the other problem with that, just in theory, is that there's a lot of thought process that goes into an integration before you can actually successfully complete an integration. Today, like, it's one of those things where doing the integration itself is actually like the easiest part of an integration. It's like figuring out everything that needs to be integrated and how it needs to be integrated. That's really the bulk of the work. So I don't think it's going to go necessarily away anytime soon, but it might be one of those things where, like, you're hiring somebody to go and help you figure out exactly how it needs to be integrated. And then soon enough, you can just turn to a tool that can build an integration for you based on all of those parameters. And so I think that's probably how it'll go at some point in the future.
Spot on. And, and I love that, that saying you probably heard around the plumber where, plumber goes into a factory and says, I can fix it, it's 25,000. And they're like, what? You're here for 5 minutes? He goes, yeah, but it's costing you 100,000 every hour for the leak. And what are your options, right? It's
Yes.
It's taken me all this time to learn. And I think it's a bit like that, like YouTube. At the moment, we can do a hell of a lot more than we ever could with YouTube, right? But there's certain times you've got to go to an expert to really work it out because YouTube won't get you there. I think AI is going to be the same. So we won't completely lose relevance. We just got to change and shift is what the relevance we bring. But if you think that repeatable work that you've made margin out of, high margin, that you haven't had to do a lot of work for it, those days are going to be over. That AI will absolutely eat that up. So you're nodding, your thoughts?
Well, you absolutely nailed it. You nailed it, because I think that's the other thing, agencies moving forward, right? If you haven't transitioned to a value-based pricing model, you're going to need to do it here relatively soon. You don't want to be stuck on time and materials when the AI age hits here, because it's just not going to take very long to do these things anymore. But that doesn't mean that the value is still not there in being able to provide the end result that they're looking for, which, as you mentioned, right, fixing a leak could cost, save them, hundreds of thousands of dollars every hour that it goes by. So just thinking about those things, what's the value that you're providing to a client and how those work, I would totally recommend switching to more of that value-driven model as well. There's a great book I read a few years ago by Ron Baker. The title slipped in my head, but I would just look up Ron Baker, value-based pricing. Actually, it might be called that. Check out that book. That was really impactful to me and was one of the best resources that I ever consulted in transitioning over to a value-based pricing model.
It's like most industry change. The people that are proactive like Keith and like you choose to be, you will ride the wave and you'll get the benefit of it, right? And those that think that things aren't going to change and are stubborn in their ways, your margin will get compressed. So it's the opportunity to, as I say, play on the court rather than be a spectator. And Keith's playing on the court really well. It's your opportunity to do the same. And you can follow Keith, as I said, on LinkedIn, and we'll have that and other links in the show notes. But what we're going to do now is just pause. We're going to then thank our sponsors, and we'll come back for the rapid fire. Ever spotted your dream client on LinkedIn only to find yourself bogged down in tedious data transfer at the expense of building that critical relationship?
Say goodbye to manual tasks and hello to efficiency with Surfy, S-U-R-F-E. Surfy transforms you from a virtual assistant into a sales pro by seamlessly capturing, syncing, and enriching contacts from LinkedIn into your preferred sales platform, be it Salesforce, HubSpot, Pipedrive, Copper, or even Google Sheets, all in one single click. Imagine reclaiming those precious hours spent on data entry and redirecting them towards nurturing valuable connections and closing deals, which we all love to do. With Surfy, it's not just a dream, it's your new reality. Ready to invest your sales time where it truly matters? Try Surfy today by visiting our resource page at paulhigginsmentoring.com/resources and clicking on Surfy. Elevate your sales game with Surfy because your success starts after the click.
So, Keith, ready for the rapid fire?
Let's do it.
All right. So, first thing is, what are some of the daily habits you do to help Modgility.com to grow?
The first thing is right, just never stop trying to learn and soak up as much information as you possibly can. A lot of people that are on your show, right? I like to exercise in the morning and get the blood flowing. And so while I'm doing that, I have a TV set up where I'm watching some video podcasts and just soaking up that information while I'm trying to keep healthy along the way. So those are probably the daily habits that I do that help me just kind of stay ahead of the edge there of everything that's going on. And that's been beneficial for me.
Yeah, brilliant. And, I've mentioned before, like, what are some of the ways that you learn more about AI? You talked about podcasts. Is there any specific YouTube channels or podcasts that you go to?
There's a ton of them, but I will say if you haven't checked out Marketing Against the Grain, which is Kip Bodnar's podcast with Kieran, they're both with HubSpot, but man, they do a lot of awesome stuff on that podcast. They've got a lot of influential people, especially in the AI space. They do a wonderful job with that podcast, and I would recommend that anybody check that out. There's also a newsletter that HubSpot puts out called The Hustle. If you haven't checked that out, check out The Hustle. I get that in my inbox every day, and that has a lot of kind of current events and things like that are going on, as well as stuff that's happening in the AI space as well. So both of those are things that I consult pretty much on a daily basis, if possible, just to see what's going on. And then, man, there's a slew of other great influencers out there that are showing different ways to build AI kind of agents and applications and things like that. And so it's just a great way to learn, especially with video, which is, I think, for me, I think that as a prediction moving forward, I think that that's going to be one of the big opportunities for us moving forward is that, AI content is going to be really the primary way to optimize for search over text or even voice for that matter. I think that video is going to be primary.
Yeah, spot on. Next one, if I could grant you one wish, what would that be?
Just to never lose the desire to keep learning. Like if I can learn and harness the opportunity that's at stake here, I think that I'll be pretty happy and trying to enjoy life and take care of my family, just like the rest of us that are out there. And have fun doing it. So that's all I hope for is health and the ability to learn and keep pushing forward.
Great. And the last one is, as you said, about 12 months into the deep dive into AI. What do you know now that you wish you had known at the start?
Oh man, so much. It's hard to encapsulate just one thing, I guess, going back to AI. But I think the thing that still is interesting to me is how agents are going to play out. I guess that's the interesting, right now, there's a lot of different ways to approach AI. And that's probably the biggest challenge is that you can chase a lot of shiny red balls that are out there and not get anything accomplished. Just knowing that you got to figure out what you want to accomplish, how you're going to use AI to accomplish it, and then test it and don't give up on it. That's the biggest challenge because I've already given up on like 15 projects that are still on my plate that I want to get. And it's just hard to stay focused. I guess that's the thing to know getting into it is like, be committed to staying as focused as you can.
Brilliant. Well, look, it's been wonderful having you on. Modgility.com. We'll have our links in the show notes. As I said, his LinkedIn will be there. Reach out and say you heard him here and follow his content because I speak to a lot of tech consultants, a lot of agency owners every day, but I think Keith's going around it the right way, and that's why I brought him on today. And you can start your journey today. It's not too late. Keith, thanks for coming on and sharing your advanced knowledge on this topic today.
Hey, Paul, thanks again so much for having me on the show. It's been a real pleasure, and look forward to hopefully doing it someday again.
Thanks. What a great interview with Keith, and you can tell that he's on the cutting edge of this. As I said, go and follow him on LinkedIn, reach out to him and say that you heard him on the podcast, and also share it with friends who can also follow Keith. Fantastic guy and very learned in this space, and you can benefit from that. Also, go and watch Keith on YouTube, the Paul Higgins mentoring channel. And if you like what you see, please subscribe to it so you don't miss out on future episodes with wonderful people like Keith. And I'll see you next time on the Paul Higgins Show.
Time for action. Let me know what you implemented from the show. I promise to respond. Plus, get the Tech Consultants Roadmap at paulhigginsmentoring.com/roadmap.